Chapter 41, Family and Separation. Kaoguang City, Roy's family residence. Royce's face registered shock as he read the message on his communicator. The shock quickly melted into joy. This news thrilled him. "Father," called third son Ivanko, hurrying to his side. "You saw sixth uncle's message too, didn't you?" Royce asked. "I did. Given sixth uncle's nature, he wouldn't have sent this unless he was certain." Ivanko nodded. "Haha, 11 has really given us a huge surprise." Royce laughed, eyes gleaming. "With 11 entering the stellar cultivation camp, I'll have the absolute qualification to join the Chaoguang City Council. Who can stop us now?" Ivanko's smile matched his brother's excitement. Once 11 enters the camp, he'll have 20 years of special privileges. With those privileges, we can completely suppress the Holt family. They both knew how the privileges worked. The camp's special privileges could be stacked with the benefits of a Chaoguang City councilor, while councilor privileges could not be stacked with other councilor privileges. That meant even if the Holts had powerful councilor allies, they would still be outmatched by the Royce family's combined advantages. "Patience," Royce reminded himself and his brother. "We still have to wait until 11 officially enters the camp." They kept their excitement controlled and contacted the family's council. After discussion, they agreed to keep the news secret and act only when the privileges took effect. After the meeting with the elders, Li Qi returned to his tent. He spent some time with his parents, enduring the familiar stream of worry and nagging. "You didn't even tell us you were coming home ahead of time," his mother scolded. Li Qi smiled apologetically. His family's fussing felt like comfort. He woke early the next morning, staring at the familiar tent ceiling and feeling surprisingly calm. This was his second day back with the family. 12 days remained before he would leave Kuka Star for the stellar cultivation camp. He washed, stepped out, and headed for the dining tent. "Brother 11. A small figure barreled toward him and wrapped her arms around his leg. Li Qi looked down to see the soft, adorable Xiao Shibai. Tears glistened on her chubby cheeks as she buried her face against him. "Brother 11, I thought you disappeared again, like Big Brother." He bent and scooped her up. "I wouldn't do that." "You did last time," she sniffed, angry and hurt. "Not this time," Li Qi said softly. "Have you eaten?" "No." She leaned against his chest. "I'm hungry." "All right, let's get breakfast." Holding Xiao Shibai, he went to the dining tent. After breakfast, she clung to him, and he found himself reluctantly stepping into the role of children's leader, taking a half-dozen youngsters with him and letting them run wild. He spent the next few days that way, playing and laughing with the little ones. A few days later, sixth Uncle Garabel found him on a small hill. Li Qi lay on the grass with one hand under his head, staring at the clear blue sky. Garabel sat beside him. 11, the stellar cultivation camp. It's dangerous, isn't it? Garabel asked after a moment. Li Qi sat up, surprised. "Sixth uncle?" "The camp is dangerous," Garabel repeated, eyes on the distance. "Your second dad died during a trial mission in the stellar cultivation camp." "That was just an accident," Li Qi snapped. He didn't want to talk about the camp with his family. He'd hardened himself against that uncertainty. He said, "Second dad was murdered." "Ever since you awakened your mind power, I've been watching you grow," Garabel said quietly. "You can't hide things from me." Li Qi fell silent, looking at the sky. He had noticed things before, small, unsettling clues, and now Garabel's words confirmed what he had suspected. Garabel murmured, "Now I finally understand." They waited in the hush together until Garabel spoke again. "If it's too hard, don't go. Stay on Kuka Star." "No." Li Qi's answer was flat and immediate. "I have to go to the stellar cultivation camp." Garabel stared into the distance for a long time and then sighed. "Xiao Yi's death affected you deeply." "I know." Li Qi's voice was small. "I respect your opinion, and the family respects my decision." "The family?" Garabel turned to him. "Your parents know?" "It's not hard to guess." Garabel's expression was tired but gentle. "I thought you should know. Your parents are the people who understand you best. They'll respect your choice." "The universe isn't Kuka Star," Garabel continued. "Here, the Empire forbids mutual killing. Out there, it's different. Think 3 times before you act, the way your second dad and big brother did. Before you do something, ask yourself, is it worth it?" He patted Li Qi's shoulder. "Think carefully." He stood to leave, hesitated, and then turned away with his back to Li Qi. Xiao Yi must have thought about this for a long time. He believed it was worth it. Then he flew back to the family settlement in the valley. Alone on the hill, Li Qi thought about his big brother's last image and felt a hard certainty settle in him. Garabel hadn't come to stop him. He'd come to understand and light the way. This choice had to be his own. He needed something of his own to believe in and defend. He looked down at the valley where his family lived. It felt impossibly beautiful. He thought of his father and mother and felt that familiar guilt tug at his chest. No parent hoped their child would risk life and death, but he had made his decision. Back at the Royce family settlement, Garabel visited Big Brother Halu's tent. Halu's first question came before Garabel could speak. He still decided to go, right? Yes. The stellar cultivation camp is very dangerous. High mortality, isn't it? Garabel didn't reply. He left the tent with a long sigh. Halu's gentle honesty had made him a good judge of character and a thoughtful man, but Garabel worried Halu's temperament left him ill-suited to carry the heavy burdens of leadership. Li Qi spent his remaining days trying to ease his parents' anxieties. He stayed close, playing with the children of the settlement, trying to bring laughs and distraction to the household. The spaceship's arrival was less than an hour away. That night, he carried a sleeping Xiao Shibai and Xiao 19 back to the tent, both exhausted from a day of play. His parents sat in quiet, low spirits, knowing tomorrow he would leave Kuka Star for the universe. When will the spaceship arrive? His father Derek asked. Soon, Li Qi said. It'll notify me on the communicator when it's here. Derek nodded without pressing further. Li Qi went to his mother, who was folding his clothes by the bed. He hugged her. Mother, I'm leaving. Xiao 11, she said softly, the words thick with reluctance. Protect yourself out there. I will. He held her for a moment longer, then felt his communicator vibrate on his wrist. The spaceship has arrived. He picked up his packed clothes and turned toward the door. He met Derek's eyes and forced a smile. Father, when I come back next time, I hope to see a younger brother or sister, maybe more than one. Without waiting for a reply, he stepped out into the night, climbed, and soared into the sky. End of Volume 2. Chapter 42. Is this still a human? Kuka Star lay swathed in clouds. A small transport punched through the atmosphere and docked at the starport. When the hatch opened with a soft click, Li Qi stepped out, escorted by a stellar worker. Congratulations, you're now a member of the stellar cultivation camp, the worker said, then pointed toward a massive ship moored nearby. That ship will take you to the camp. Thank you. Li Qi bowed slightly and turned to look. The vessel was so close and so large that only a section of its hull was visible. The worker led him onward. Please follow me. They reached a hatch. It opened, and a burly man filled the doorway, radiating an invisible pressure that made Li Qi instinctively lower his head. This was a universe-rank powerhouse. The worker snapped a salute. Lord Borswell. Anxious, he stepped back as Borswell spoke. The person has been delivered. You may return. Relief washed over the worker's face. His earlier envy of Li Qi vanished into the gratitude of having avoided trouble. He saluted again and hurried off. Li Qi Royce? Borswell asked. Yes, Lord Borswell. Borswell smiled. Welcome aboard Sansi 1. He hadn't seen such a promising young genius at planetary level in a long time. Follow me. Sansi 1 was a D9-class ship, Borswell explained as they walked. 1 D9 main laser cannon and 4 C9 auxiliary cannons. Even a domain lord would find its defenses hard to breach. Under Borswell's lead, Li Qi toured most of the ship and met a few of the crew. In a lounge not far from the core cockpit, Li Qi sat stiffly on a sofa and studied an agreement displayed on a light screen. Borswell sat across from him, leisurely sipping a greenish drink. For a genius like you, the Empire gives another choice, Borswell said, draining the cup and smacking his lips. You can refuse, leave this ship and return to Kuka Star to wait for new orders from the Cultivation Planet Management Department, or you can accept this agreement and have no retreat. You will go to the Stellar Cultivation Camp for life or death tempering. You've surely heard how deadly the camp is. He leaned forward. So, what is your decision? I accept. Li Qi's mind was already made up. He signed his name on the light screen with his right index finger in the common universe language. Good. Borswell nodded with approval. set the empty cup on a robot-held tray, and rose. "Follow me." They went to the enhancement room. It was spacious, dominated by a silver-white nutrient pod about 20 meters long, 6 to 7 meters wide, and 3 meters high. Two motionless robots stood at its sides. Their foreheads pulsed faint red lights. "This is a C-class nutrient pod," Borswell said. "It can directly raise someone to planetary level 9th order. Its value is extremely high." He added, almost casually, "Universe-rank powerhouses can use it too, but for them it's only useful for recovery and replenishment." Li Qi thought, if it's useless to him, that means he's Universe 9th order. "We'll be more than a month en route to Sand Sea Star," Borswell continued. "You can use this pod to reach planetary level 9th order in at most 20 days. He tapped the pod's hull. "After you signed, the camp sent 3 messages. Open the second one." Li Qi checked his communicator. The second message was a cultivation formula, labeled a genetic primal energy cultivation method. Borswell explained, "Use this method with the pod and it accelerates nutrient absorption. To use the pod, you undress and lie inside. The robots handle the rest. I have other duties. Decide when you want to enhance yourself." Borswell left. Li Qi memorized the method on the light screen and practiced it for a while. It seemed ordinary, probably just a standard supplemental technique, so he decided not to rely on it alone. He opened the pod, removed his clothes, and lay down. A nearby robot's optical sensor lit up. It approached, and dark gray nutrient solution began to flow into the pod from a pipe. Soon his body was submerged. The moment the liquid touched him, vitality surged through every pore, into flesh, bone, even his genes. The solution promoted deep genetic refinement. As he felt his genes shift, Li Qi began circulating the newly learned method to speed the absorption. Even so, his rate of absorption was unusual, far faster than it should have been. 8 days later, still aboard Sand C1, a routine 10-day patrol brought a universe-rank crew inspector to the nutrient solution storeroom. He checked the reserve units and made the usual marks on his patrol form, then hesitated. He stared at the entry for the nutrient solution reserves and frowned. He ran a hand over the monitor, triple-checked the numbers, and could scarcely believe them. What's going on? Only 12 units of A-class nutrient solution left? Aside from one specially reserved stash of C-class solution, Sand C1's regular reserves were only A-class, suitable for raising someone through the planetary levels. Normally, 1 unit of A-class solution was enough to take a person from planetary 1st order to 9th order. Sometimes 1 unit was slightly too much or slightly too little, so the robots would automatically top up the pod if needed. He traced the recorded flow direction and his face darkened. The consumption log showed 1 user had drained 8 units. How is this possible? How could a single person absorb 8 units of A-class solution? Is this even human? He snapped his console closed. "No, I have to see this for myself." Chapter 43, Hope of Returning to Lava Emperor Star. To investigate the situation, the universe-rank crewmen left the nutrient solution storage room and flew toward the reinforcement chamber. A-grade nutrient solution wasn't prohibitively expensive. He could have bought a large supply with his wealth, but if anything went wrong, he would be held responsible. He did not want that. The hatch opened with a click. A maintenance robot was operating at the nutrient cabin, and new nutrient solution was being piped in, the 9th unit. The crewman stepped forward, pushed the robot aside, and hurriedly connected his communicator to the nutrient cabin to check the operation records. When he saw the entries, he exhaled in relief. There were indeed multiple injections recorded. He disconnected and glanced at Li Qi, who lay immersed in the nutrient fluid. His heart skipped a beat. To be sure, he probed again with genetic primal energy, and after confirming Li Qi's power level, he couldn't help but cry out in astonishment. What's going on? He absorbed 8 units of nutrient solution and he's still only planetary level, stage 6? The crewman was stunned. How could anyone remain at planetary level stage 6 after absorbing 8 units? It was incomprehensible. Panic took hold. This is serious. I must report to the captain immediately. He forgot to use his communicator and flew straight toward the bridge. In the lounge nearest the bridge, Borswell sat on a sofa watching a holographic movie, occasionally sipping fine wine. This was how he relaxed, when his mind could drift, undisturbed. 8 years. Only 8 years left. The thought drifted unbidden through his mind. Borswell was a member of the Lava Emperor's personal guard, an elite force famous across the Lava Empire and neighboring intermediate universe nations. Their guard was commanded by 3 world lords, captained by domain lords, and staffed by universe-rank members. The cost of maintaining such a force would make an average undying spiritual god wince, and only the wealth of the Lava World Master, on par with a Marquise-level undying, could support it. Borswell had been proud to be part of that guard, but years earlier he'd been assigned captain of San C1, tasked with transporting geniuses to and from the stellar cultivation camp. It had been a blow to his pride, yet the assignment lasted only 100 years. After that, he could return to Lava Emperor's star. He had served as San C1's captain for nearly 92 years. Only 8 remained. "Captain! Captain!" A subordinate's shout from outside the lounge pulled Borswell from his thoughts. Irritated at the interruption, he used telekinesis to throw the door open. "What is it?" "Captain, something happened." The crewman was clearly shaken, as if he'd seen something that upended his understanding. "Speak clearly. What happened?" Borswell demanded. "That young man we picked up a few days ago, he's absorbed 8 units of nutrient solution and is still only planetary level stage 6. He's now absorbing the 9th unit. Borswell sprang to his feet. If anything happened to that recruit on his watch, it would be his responsibility, and that could ruin his chance to return home. They moved quickly to the reinforcement chamber. They found Li Qi submerged in the nutrient cabin. After careful examination, Borswell murmured, "He is indeed planetary level stage 6, but his qi is very strong. He's about to break through to planetary level stage 7. He narrowed his eyes and thought it over. It doesn't look like a failure. The nutrient solution is taking effect. His qi is strengthening. At this rate, he should reach stage 7 today, but it's abnormal that it took nearly 9 units to get him this far. Borswell had broader knowledge than most universe-rank crewmen. As a member of the Lava Emperor's Guard, he knew secrets even some domain lords were unaware of, things like special life forms. He thought, people with large body volumes or noble bloodlines need more nutrient solution for reinforcement. But there are limits. An extra 1 or 2 units is plausible. 8 units and still only stage 6 is impossible, unless he's a special life form. Discovering a special life form would be a major achievement, a great merit that would guarantee his transfer back to Lava Emperor's star. He told himself to wait. Planetary level stages 1 to 9 depend on the gradual accumulation of genetic primal energy. Each stage requires a large influx of energy. If Li Qi, upon breaking through to stage 7, absorbed so much energy that it required another unit or 2 of nutrient solution, that would strongly indicate he was a special life form. So Borswell and the crewmen waited. After more than an hour, Li Qi's energy shifted. "It's coming. Finally," Borswell whispered. He ordered without turning his head, "Prepare to inject nutrient solution." "Yes." Though the crewman didn't understand the full reasoning, he obeyed and placed a hand on the injection controls. Li Qi's qi surged, and he broke through from planetary level stage 6 to stage 7. His cellular genes hungrily drew in a massive amount of energy. The nutrient fluid in the cabin plunged visibly. More than half was gone within 5 seconds. Without replenishment, it would be depleted in moments. At that, the crewmen pressed the injection button. Nutrient solution rushed through the pipelines with a whoosh. Almost as soon as it entered the cabin, it was consumed. The crewmen pressed the button again. The newly injected fluid was, again, largely absorbed almost immediately. After that flurry, Li Qi's cellular genes were satiated and absorbed more slowly, while his strength increased markedly. "That's it," Borswell breathed. "That's it. He's a special life form. I must report to His Majesty." His hands trembled with excitement. "You stay here and supply him with nutrient solution whenever he needs it. Use all A-grade nutrient solution, except the specially reserved C-grade." Without waiting for acknowledgement, Borswell left the reinforcement chamber and returned to his private lounge to report to the Lava Emperor. Chapter 44, Hope of the Lava Realm. Lord on Lava Emperor's star, in a grand palace, the Lava World Master sat on a high throne. He had been cultivating with his eyes closed when, suddenly, he opened them and a light screen unfolded before him. "Your Majesty." On the screen bowed a one-eyed man with rough skin and a single large eye full of respect. This was Wei, one of the Lava World Master's 3 great World Master Guard captains. The Lava World Master asked quietly, "What is it?" "Borswell, a universe-rank guard who used to serve under me, has an urgent report," White replied respectfully. "He is here." At the name, the Lava World Master's thought speed, sharp as an optical computer, pulled up the man's dossier instantly. He remembered Borswell, once a palace guard, now assigned to escort elite geniuses from the stellar cultivation camp. He inclined his head. "Bring him through." "Yes." White bowed and the light screen folded. The hall fell silent. Soon another light screen opened and Borswell's face appeared, framed by the interior of a spaceship. "Your Majesty," Borswell saluted, his eyes shining with reverence. Having served in the palace detachment, he had heard the legends of the Lava World Master all his life. The Lava World Master nodded. "You have an urgent matter to report?" "Yes, Your Majesty. It concerns the Stellar Cultivation Camp's new student, Royce." The Lava World Master gestured for him to continue. Borswell went on. "My squad and I were ordered to pick up Royce from Kuka Star and deliver him to the San C Star Stellar Cultivation Camp. Because he comprehended a domain, regulations required he be strengthened to planetary level 9 using nutrient solution. We took him to the strengthening chamber and placed him in a nutrient cabin. Everything was normal at first. Strengthening in the nutrient cabin takes more than 10 days, and the cabin was monitored by a robot, so my men and I left after he entered. But 8 days later, during a routine check, one of the crew discovered that the nutrient solution reserves had decreased by 8 units. At that, the Lava World Master's expression tightened. Borswell continued, voice tinged with excitement. "We inspected and found all 8 units had been delivered into the nutrient cabin. We also witnessed Royce break through to planetary level 7 inside the chamber. Normally, a breakthrough from level 6 to level 7 consumes nearly 1 unit of nutrient solution. During this strengthening session, however, he absorbed nearly 10 units in total. Therefore, my men and I think Royce might be a special life form. I report this to Your Majesty." Borswell's excitement was obvious. Encountering something extraordinary was unforgettable for him. The Lava World Master considered the report, but quickly dismissed the idea that was a different life form. He had seen Royce's records. Apart from an unusual family background, appeared human. Blood cell samples taken when he entered the special training camp showed no change. He was still human. "A fortuitous encounter, then," the Lava World Master murmured to himself. The universe was full of dangers and wonders. Some lives ended in tragedy, others found rare opportunities. He, too, had once been lucky. A 10-fold life gene had granted him World Master power 10 times greater than normal, the key to his confidence against ordinary, undying spiritual gods. No wonder he awakened the source of life. He must have had a fortuitous encounter, he thought. That explained the anomaly. "Borswell," he spoke again. "Yes, Your Majesty," Borswell answered. "Seal this news," the Lava World Master ordered. "This matter must not be spread. Tell no one, not even Royce himself. Once the ship arrives at San C Star, transfer all crew under your command back to Lava Emperor Star." Borswell's face flushed. The order meant house arrest. He had expected something like this, but the reality still made him tremble. At the same time, he knew this was a fortunate outcome. Had the matter fallen into the wrong hands, those men might have been silenced permanently. "If I remember correctly," the Lava World Master added, "you still have 8 years left on your term at San C Star." "Yes, Your Majesty. When your term ends, return to Lava Emperor Star to serve as one of my personal accompanying guards." Borswell's eyes widened. He bowed deeply, heart pounding with shock and joy. "Thank you, Your Majesty." The Lava World Master waved him away. "You may withdraw." "Yes." Borswell saluted, and the screen closed. The main hall returned to silence, the Lava World Master alone on his throne. Royce," he repeated inwardly. "Perhaps he can help me complete Chanwu Country Lord's trial mission." Long ago, he and his sworn brother Rong and Hao, had offered an incredibly valuable treasure to Chanwu Country Lord. Because Rong Dian Hao had been the principal contributor, he received a reward. The Lava World Master, coming second, received a promise instead. Because of his fortuitous encounter and 10-fold life gene, he was given a choice by the great Qianwu country lord, one of humanity's 1,004 universe countries. He had been offered 3 options. The first 2 were trial missions: create a secret technique and use it to defeat an opponent set by Qianwu country lord, which would grant him acceptance as a personal disciple, or complete a cultivation mission. Cultivate a top genius capable of entering the core layer of the Virtual Universe Corporation or the Great Axe Battleground, which would make him a named disciple. The third option was to join Qianwu Universe Country directly as a king-level undying subordinate under Qianwu Country Lord, earning the right to purchase a champion-level secret technique. The third choice carried far lesser prestige and was not acceptable to him. Refusing that fate, he founded the Lava Empire to pursue both ambitions: create a secret technique and cultivate geniuses. Centuries, epochs, passed. None of the geniuses he cultivated reached the goal. Only a single one ever cracked the universe top 7,300. His attempts at a secret technique had advanced to nearly the peak of an immortal military lord, but against the terrifying opponent set by Qianwu Country Lord, the outcome would still be instant death. Now this Li Qi, blessed by a fortuitous encounter and awakened to the source of life, might be the spark the Lava World Master needed. The thought rekindled hope. He resolved to meet this young man named Li Qi Royce. On the Sansi-1 spaceship, Borswell stared at Li Qi in the nutrient solution cabin and thought, he shouldn't be a special life. He had been too excited earlier, letting himself believe Li Qi was something extraordinary. But the data he'd checked afterward showed Li Qi as human. Apart from that mysterious meteor at his birth, there was nothing to mark him out. A new possibility formed: an encounter. As the Lava Emperor's personal guard, Borswell had overheard important people talk about encounters with a mixture of envy and awe. No matter the cause, since His Majesty valued him so highly, Borswell resolved to protect Li Qi's safety. So he sat alone outside the nutrient solution cabin until the enhancement finished. A few days later, as the last unit of A-grade nutrient solution was absorbed, Li Qi inside the cabin broke through to planetary level 8th order. The cabin door opened with a click. Li Qi's eyes came into focus. Genetic primal energy shimmered over his body. The enhancement is over. Am I planetary level 9th order now? He wondered. He felt the changes cautiously. Denser bones, tighter muscle fibers, skin almost crystalline. The amount of genetic primal energy inside him was hundreds of times greater than before. His mind power felt near its limit, probably the peak of planetary level 9th order. Green genetic primal energy pulsed outward, filling the enhancement room. My domain is stronger, Li Qi thought, surprised. He hadn't expected the nutrient solution cabin to boost his domain as well. Borswell, sensing the domain's expansion, felt its restraint and froze. Domain, second layer? He had to be mistaken. Li Qi had only just comprehended domain less than a month ago. How could it already reach a second layer? Was this the talent that made His Majesty prize him? Li Qi noticed Borswell's presence, used his mind power to summon his clothes, dressed quickly, and bowed. Lord Borswell. Borswell had already regained his composure. Li Qi Royce. Yes, Li Qi answered. Borswell's tone was cool. I regret to inform you that because picking you up was a temporary assignment, the ship's nutrient solution reserves are insufficient. We cannot enhance you to planetary level 9th order. You are currently planetary level 8th order in genetic primal energy. Li Qi's face betrayed nothing, but inwardly he reeled. Insufficient reserves? He had noticed the cabin's control panel earlier, and it had shown the reserves were sufficient. Besides, his life gene multiplier was more than 20 times normal. His nutrient consumption should have been correspondingly high. If the ship had indicated sufficient supply before his enhancement, then someone would see the discrepancy now. His secret might already be exposed. He felt panic flare hot in his chest. Resist? He couldn't. Borswell was a universe-level 9th order expert who could crush him in an instant. Helplessness settled over him like a stone. Borswell watched the change in Li Qi's expression and spoke quietly. This was an oversight by Sansi-1. I hope you can keep it a secret. If anyone asks why you remain at planetary level 8th order, you can say you only comprehended domain on the way to the stellar cultivation camp. Sansi-1 will keep your secret. Keep it a secret. Li Qi let out a breath that felt like relief. For now, the people on this ship wouldn't reveal his life gene multiplier. He didn't know why Borswell or the ship's crew would go to such lengths, but it was the best outcome he could hope for. Still, he couldn't help worrying whether Borswell's promise would hold. "I'll take you to a temporary room to rest," Borswell added. Lychee nodded. He used his mind power to gather his remaining belongings and followed Borswell through the ship. They arrived at a modest room. "This will be your temporary residence on Sand C1 before you go to the stellar cultivation camp," Borswell said. "There's a virtual universe consciousness connector inside, so you can access the camp virtually. I suggest you read the first and third messages the camp sent you. They cover basic information." With that, Borswell turned and left for the cockpit. "Thank you, Lord Borswell," Lychee said, bowing to the retreating figure. Once alone, he set his floating items aside with his mind power and sat on the bed, thinking. As long as he presented himself as a planetary-level domain prodigy, he might be safe for now. But how far Borswell could keep the secret was beyond Lychee's control. If the guard leaked his multiplier, someone might dare defy the Lava Empire to seize him. Images flashed through his mind: capture, possession, and a cold helplessness washed over him. This was the agony of being weak, knowing danger was coming and being powerless to stop it. If he stayed with his family on Kuka Star, his secret might never be found, but his elder brother's death had steeled him. He wanted to grow strong enough to change his family's fate, to be able to ask a universe lord to resurrect them. Strength didn't come overnight. Without a system, he could only cultivate step by step. His two external aids were a mixed blessing. One only revealed a name, not its content. The other brought life-threatening danger. That reality couldn't be changed. At least, he thought, if he entered the stellar cultivation camp, he might help his family hold on to their ranch. That possibility steadied him. His grandfather might even rise in status in Chaoguang City. Beep, an abrupt sound cut through his thoughts. The communicator on the bedside panel lit up, and a projection unfolded. On the screen sat a burly man on a throne. Fiery red skin, a square face, 4 tusks at the corners of his mouth. A peculiar symbol overlapped on his forehead, clear despite the layering. "Lychee Royce?" the man asked in a deep, imperial voice. Lychee bowed respectfully. "Present." The man introduced himself. "I am Gu Lete Fleming. You may call me the Lava Emperor." Hearing that title, Lychee's expression froze. The Lava World Master regarded the respectful young man on the screen with genuine appreciation. Like himself, this youth had an opportunity. He hadn't planned to meet him. He had even ordered a gag on everyone aboard Sand C1, but he realized that if he didn't explain things clearly, the young man would probably live in constant fear, which would stunt his growth. So he had decided to see him in person. "Your Majesty," Lychee bowed deeply, his shock quickly turning to reverence. The man on the screen was no ordinary noble. He was the founder of an intermediate universe state, most likely an immortal military lord. Lychee had to look up to him. The Lava World Master spoke evenly. "You must have noticed your mind power and genetic primal energy are 20 to 30 times stronger than your peers." He paused, watching Lychee's face. "That's because you had an opportunity. After calculation, your life gene level is 32 times. 32 times? Lychee blurted. He had expected maybe 20-something. 32 was far beyond his hopes, and it made the color drain from his face. If the Emperor knew about his life gene level, then the worst was possible. On the other end of the screen, the Lava World Master chuckled softly. "Heh, don't worry." Lychee frowned. "What do you mean, don't worry?" "An opportunity is a chance," the Emperor said. "But it can also become a burden. Your life gene level being 32 times will remain a secret." "Why would your Majesty keep my secret?" Lychee asked, stunned, and then cold dread crept in. Keeping it secret could mean silencing him permanently. The Lava World Master's expression didn't change. "Only the people aboard Sand C1 will know. The crew will be transferred to Lava Emperor Star and will not leave for 10,000 years. Hearing that, Lychee breathed out. Transferring the crew to Lava Emperor Star, rather than killing them, meant house arrest, not execution. The relief that flooded him made him trust the Emperor a little more. Compared to powerful men who took joy in slaughter, a ruler who favored containment seemed far less dangerous. "You may rest at ease," the Emperor continued, but his voice carried a warning. This secrecy is a one-time concession. If you reveal your life gene level yourself, the Empire will no longer keep your secret. Yes, Your Majesty, Li Qi answered respectfully, feeling reassured by the warning. I will cultivate diligently. I look forward to seeing you in the lava secret realm. With that, the screen went dark. When it disappeared, Li Qi felt an unfamiliar lightness wash over him. The tension that had knotted his thoughts dissolved, and everything in the room seemed suddenly more vivid and pleasing. He let himself linger in the relief for a long moment. The Emperor's last words, "I look forward to seeing you in the lava secret realm," stayed with him. Was there a lava secret realm above the stellar cultivation camp? It seemed likely, otherwise the Emperor wouldn't have said it. And why would the Emperor keep his secret? Perhaps it was because of his genius. If the Emperor had built a system to cultivate prodigies for the Cosmic Peak Genius Battle, keeping exceptional talents hidden would make sense. Exhausted from the roller coaster of the past day, Li Qi decided to sleep. He woke the next morning in a much better mood. After washing, he used mind power to pull up his communicator and check the remaining messages from the stellar cultivation camp. The camp had sent 3 messages in total. He had already read the second, which contained the genetic primal energy cultivation method for use with the nutrient pod. The first message was a congratulatory notice for his acceptance into the San Sea Star Stellar Cultivation Camp, one of the Lava Empire's 3 major camps, followed by information about the camp and instructions for entering it in the virtual universe. Li Qi blinked. 3 stellar cultivation camps? And they accepted students from other intermediate universe states? The system's influence was greater than he had imagined. He opened the third message next. It was an introduction to the points system and a list of the points and rewards he had been granted. The system was strict. Everything beyond basic living facilities had to be bought with points. Points could be earned through trial missions and the initial allotment given upon admission. As he read, Li Qi mused that Chaoguang Academy's point system seemed to have been modeled on the stellar cultivation camps. The mechanics were similar. At the end of the introduction was a final clause that made him pause. Every new student who enters the stellar cultivation camp can engage in point gambling battles with senior students during the first 3 days after entry. Gambling battles with older students. Li Qi frowned. That sounded like a mechanism designed to funnel points to seniors. Newcomers were inexperienced. Seniors, hardened by life and death trials, would almost certainly dominate. But there was a purpose beyond cruelty. The camp's new student rule was probably meant to humble the proud. Even the most gifted geniuses could be arrogant. Having them confronted and humiliated early on would force them to accept they were ordinary among many others and start learning with the right attitude. Li Qi shook his head slightly, half amused. The rule was clever and ruthless. He made a mental note to observe the camp closely once he arrived. Finally, he opened the detailed list of his points and rewards and studied them. Chapter 47, Points Gambling Invitation Li Qi Royce. Upon entering the Stellar Cultivation Camp, you receive an initial 100 points. For comprehending a domain before entering the Stellar Cultivation Camp, an additional 100 points are awarded. For a planetary-level cultivator comprehending a domain, a special reward, a low-grade Tier 2 mind energy weapon, the Bloodblade Cone, will be issued after the second trial mission concludes. After reading the point notice, Li Qi reflected. The initial 100 points are obviously given to every student who enters. The extra 100 points show how much the Stellar Cultivation Camp values students who have already comprehended a domain. It might only be 100 points, but for domain-level students, that could mean far more than double the chance of survival. He remembered what Governor Lorenzo of Kukastar had once said and formed a few guesses. Although I haven't seen the camp's points exchange list yet, from what the governor mentioned, both Mind Energy Original Force weapons and Force armor require points to obtain. A difference of 100 points could be the difference between affording a Mind Energy Original Force weapon or not. He frowned slightly. I don't know enough about the Stellar Cultivation Camp. I need to get some intelligence. As the old saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. His gaze landed on the first message on his light screen, and a smile spread across his face. Gambling matches, he murmured. That might be a good way to make points. Virtual Universe, Qianwu Continent, Molten Rock Island. The Sand Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp here covered tens of thousands of square kilometers, hundreds of buildings of varying heights rising across the landscape. Plazas dotted the spaces between towers, and in one of those plazas, 3 students sat chatting. One leaned back in his chair, bored. I'm still short on points to trade for a secret manual. Haven't run into any new arrivals lately. Another replied, New arrivals are rare, and the Sand Sea Camp is huge. You wouldn't run into them by chance. The first sighed, I've been here over 10 years and only gambled with new arrivals twice. The blue-haired youth snorted. You're lucky. You want to combine 30 points from those 2. Rack lost 40 points to a new arrival in one match. At the mention of Rock, the first student pricked up his ears. Looking toward the blue-haired youth, he asked, Rolando, is that true? I heard the newcomer Ian was really strong. Did he crush Rack so badly that Rack considered withdrawing from the camp? Rolando shook his head. My relationship with Rack's just average, but yes, Rack was thinking about quitting. That Ian is no joke. He already comprehended a domain before entering the camp, and his domain cultivation is deep. He's top tier even among all the students here. I think he's just going through the motions. He's aiming for the Lava Secret Realm. At the mention of Ian and the Lava Secret Realm, the other 2 students' faces lit with envy. They had come from the same family for one reason, to get into the Lava Secret Realm. They wouldn't have come to such a dangerous camp otherwise. Both were direct descendants of a domain-level family, but their family had thousands of such descendants. Talent was good, but resources were scarce. Becoming an astral rank was manageable. Reaching universe rank was like trying to climb to the heavens. To improve their odds, they'd gone through layer upon layer of competition and finally arrived at the Lava Empire's stellar cultivation camp. But there they realized they were still just ordinary faces among the many. The Lava Secret Realm remained out of reach. For now, their greatest hope was simply to survive the trial missions and leave the camp after completing 10 of them. Swish! Suddenly a figure appeared in the plaza. Rolando spotted him first. Huh? A new arrival. Rolando surged to his feet and shot off in the newcomer's direction. What's wrong with Rolando? The other 2 wondered, then spotted the figure too. It's a new arrival. Rolando got there first. They stood, annoyed that they hadn't noticed sooner. By the unwritten rules of the Sand Sea Camp, whoever found a new arrival first could claim him. Since Rolando had seen this one first, there was no point in trying to steal him, unless Rolando decided to give up the match. Li Qi entered the virtual universe and was teleported to the Sand Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp by the invitation in his communicator. Before he could take in his surroundings, a blue-haired youth flew up to him and introduced himself with a smile. Hello, my name is Rolando. Li Qi was slightly surprised. Someone had found him so quickly. He glanced back toward where Rolando had come from and saw 2 students watching with annoyed expressions. First come, first served, he thought. Gambling matches with new arrivals really were a custom for the local students. Li Qi, he said in return, offering a polite smile. They sized each other up. Li Qi noted Rolando's look. Young, likely astral rank tier 2, strength unknown until tested. Rolando, seeing Li Qi's still youthful face, muttered under his breath, is this new arrival merely young-looking, or actually young? It didn't matter either way. What mattered was strength. Rolando made a quick assessment. Young-looking, entered the camp at planetary level tier 8, probably from some big family. I doubt he's exceptional. His inner confidence matched the smile on his face. This match should be an easy win. I'll earn a few points. Li Qi, you just arrived and might not be familiar with the camp, Rolando said smoothly. How about a match? I saw the message the camp sent you, right? New arrivals can participate in points gambling. No, let's do a small match, nothing big, just 20 points. Li Qi's smile stiffened at the blunt offer. He couldn't help thinking, he doesn't even try to be subtle, just asks a new arrival to gamble. How blunt. Still, he kept his expression neutral and nodded. All right, but tell me the rules first. Chapter 48. How dare he? But what? Rolando said. Isn't 20 points too little? If we're gambling, let's bet big. Lychee smiled, a hint of provocation in his voice. 50 points. I'll wager half of my starting points. Do you dare? 50 points? The face of the newcomer still looked a little boyish, and Rolando's surprise and uncertainty showed. To wager half his starting points so casually, where did this kid get such confidence? 50 points weren't trivial. On average, completing trial missions barely yielded that much. Rolando hesitated. Was the new student bluffing, or did he really have the confidence to beat him? Do you accept or not? Lychee pressed. He's not planetary level 9, so he can't be a planetary level domain genius, right? Rolando's mind raced. Maybe the newcomer had just arrived at the stellar cultivation camp and didn't realize how unfavorable the default combat space configuration could be for martial artists. Or maybe he was bluffing, trying to intimidate him. 50 points was a lot to risk. In the end, Rolando gritted his teeth. 50 points. I accept. Good. Lychee's smile widened. He sent the invitation. A pale screen blinked in front of Rolando. He tapped accept, and both of them streaked away from the plaza in light. They went to the combat space. The new guy accepted Rolando's wager, one of Rolando's companions said. I really envy Rolando getting points like that. If we'd found that newcomer first, we could have redeemed our secret manual. You were distracted, another replied. When Rolando comes back, ask him how many points he won. The combat space unfolded in a blaze of heat. A harsh sun hung in a sand-swept sky. The ground was a boundless sea of yellow. Lychee hovered in black force armor, a silver-white greatsword floating behind him. Genetic primal energy shimmered around him, keeping the wind-blown dust at bay. Several kilometers away, his opponent also flew through the dusty air. This setup favors Psyker Masters, Lychee muttered. Everyone gets a first-tier self-selected mind energy weapon or original force weapon and a first-tier force armor. If Rolando is a martial artist, he's in trouble. Rolando stood on a silver-white greatsword of his own, also clad in black force armor. His expression was cold. He'd been around long enough to know the default combat space was harsh on martial artists and generous to Psyker Masters. If the newcomer hadn't changed the configuration, Rolando would have the upper hand, if the newcomer were a martial artist. Since the wager was high, Rolando decided not to warn him. A gust of sand filled the air. A streak of silver-white light sliced through the dust toward Rolando. Mind energy weapon. This one's a Psyker Master, Rolando realized. With a thought, he mobilized his intent. The greatsword beneath him separated into more than 20 blades, which recombined into a small silver sword that shot forward to intercept the incoming streak. The two energies met with a crisp metallic clang. Po Xiao sword, Rolando said, frowning. The newcomer was using a cloud-soaring sword, medium-grade, first-tier mind energy weapon, separable and versatile. It was popular in the camp. Since both of them wielded the same weapon, unless there was a major difference in strength, a quick decision was unlikely. Then, amid the whirling sand, the newcomer did something Rolando hadn't expected. He charged in. A black-clad figure, flanked by silver blades, propelled himself straight into close quarters. Rolando flushed with anger. How dare this new recruit close the distance? He'd been through life-and-death battles. What right did some newbie have to rush him? Rolando opened his right hand. A Po Xiao sword flew into his grip. With the floating blades weaving around them, he dove at the charging Lychee. Their Po Xiao swords collided and tangled, filling the air with ringing clashes. Rolando used the opportunity to surge forward, speed ripping toward his opponent. Die, he thought. Suddenly, a brilliant green light flashed and wrapped him. His body slammed into an invisible resistance as if bound by unseen chains. His momentum bled away. Rolando's heart sank. What? A silver-white streak of light threaded through the green glow like a meteor, dragging a long, luminous tail. It bore down on him faster than he could react. Bound and helpless, he watched it pierce through. The strike shattered the protective field around his head. His body fell away, head struck, the greatsword blades that had been entangled splitting into lone pieces and scattering. Lychee floated in the center of a green domain that controlled the surrounding space, looking every inch the master of it. He peered down at Rolando's falling form with a puzzled expression. You're a Psyker Master. Why were you trying to force close combat? Rolando's consciousness snapped back in the plaza with a jolt. A light screen notification confirmed his loss. 50 points deducted. He stood there, dazed. He couldn't believe it. This new student actually had a domain. He stared at the memory of that green light. In his mind, he had always associated true domain mastery with planetary level 9. How could a newcomer be capable of that? Nearby, two of Rolando's friends were already heading toward him, chattering. "Let's go see how many points Rolando won this time," one said. They flew over, full of curiosity and greed, while Rolando tried to force his expression back to normal. The battle had ended far faster than anyone expected, and not in Rolando's favor. Chapter 49, Trading Intelligence and Leaving Conditions. "Rolando, how many points did you win this time?" "Yeah, show us. How many?" The two friends flew over to Rolando grinning, leaning in to read the translucent display still hovering before him. Their smiles vanished the instant they saw the screen. "Lost? What? How is that possible?" The light screen showed Rolando had been defeated and had lost 50 points. One of the students stood there speechless for a moment. "Rolando, you? What happened?" "Rolando, you lost 50 points?" They were incredulous. Rolando had bet a huge amount and lost it. He recovered and, with a low voice, explained, "That newcomer is a planetary-level domain genius. They only show up in the stellar cultivation camp once every 100 years. "A planetary-level domain genius?" The two exchanged shocked looks. Such a rank was dazzling. Each one would be courted by powerful houses in their universe, even personally recruited by domain lords or world lords. In the San Sea Star stellar cultivation camp, full of geniuses, a planetary-level domain genius hadn't appeared for over 1,000 years. "Why would you gamble with him then, and for so much?" one of them asked. 50 points is like half the reward for a trial mission," the other added. Rolando sighed. "At first, I didn't know he was planetary level. I saw he was planetary rank 8 and assumed he was just some descendant of a major family. I only planned to bet 20 points, but that newcomer acted cocky, said 20 was too little, and told me to go half the original amount. 50. He even dared me. I thought I could take him. Close combat, advantage of my Psyker master training. So I agreed. Then, as soon as I closed, he activated his domain. I was caught off guard and lost." The two friends grew sympathetic. They'd thought Rack's defeat was unlucky, but Rolando's loss was worse. He'd tried to take points and been outplayed by someone clearly hungry for them. Before either could comfort him, a flash of white light drew their attention. A black-haired youth with a boyish face appeared. Both companions looked at him and back at each other. Now they understood how Rolando had been tricked. The newcomer's appearance was completely deceptive. Li Chi looked at the two students flanking the blue-haired Rolando and asked, "Are you his friends?" They nodded automatically in the presence of a planetary-level domain genius. Li Chi gave a faint apology. "I have something to discuss with Rolando." "We've got things to do," one said quickly. "You two go on, chat among yourselves." They answered in unison and shot off as two white streaks. Rolando muttered through his toothache, "Those two." Li Chi smiled. "Let's talk." Rolando's expression hardened. He remembered the 50 points that had just vanished. "I don't think we have anything to talk about." Li Chi's smile didn't change. 20 points. "Huh?" Rolando blinked. "What do you mean, 20 points?" "I'll buy information about the stellar cultivation camp. 20 points." Li Chi sounded indifferent. 20 points is easy money. Plenty of old students would sell for that." "Why should I sell it to you?" Rolando's expression flickered. He scowled at the newcomer's presumption, nowhere near the kind of brashness you'd want to display after just losing 50 points. "If you're not willing, I can find someone else," Li Chi said calmly. Rolando hesitated. He'd lost 50 points already. Recovering some of that would matter, and the idea that the newcomer might otherwise be buying ammo for more bets stung. He relented. "Fine, 20 points. I'll sell the information." Li Chi sent a 20-point gambling invitation. Rolando accepted. They vanished as white lights. Combat space opened to them, a clear, azure sky with scattered white clouds, rolling green grass as far as the eye could see. Li Chi floated down and sat cross-legged on the grass. Rolando landed opposite him and, wary, asked, "You sure I won't be cheated?" Li Chi chuckled. "You're a genius in the stellar cultivation camp. 20 points isn't worth me offending you over." Rolando admitted silently that was true, The camp's information matters much more to newcomers than old students, so selling it for 20 points was reasonable. He asked, "What do you want to know?" Li Qi started with trial missions. Rolando explained, there are three main types. The simplest is collection missions, gathering medicinal materials, minerals, or parts from vicious beasts. Follow the requirements, hand in the basic material quota, and you get the base points. Do extra collection tasks for higher rewards. These missions have only time limits, and duplicates are rare, so students tend not to clash. They're very safe. Slightly harder are patrol missions, he continued. They involve anti-smuggling inspections, border patrols, and fixed-point guards. Fixed-point guard is the safest but takes the longest. Shortest missions are a year, and the rewards aren't great. Border patrol and anti-smuggling are riskier, but captains are universe rank. If you don't act recklessly, you're usually fine. Still, they can be dangerous. A few decades ago, an astral rank domain genius died on a border patrol in another stellar cultivation camp. The Empire later destroyed the domain lord family behind that smuggling ship. Li Qi's expression tightened. What was the name of that astral who died? Rolando frowned, trying to remember. I'm not certain. It sounded like Ron. Li Qi's heart sank. It confirmed what he'd already suspected. He recalled the family elder's stories. Second dad, Ron Royce, had died on a trial mission, betrayed by a trusted friend, and facing a universe-rank slave trader leader alone. His wife had come to rescue him and was killed. He'd chosen to fight to the death, even though he might have escaped otherwise. The trader later died on another trial mission. Rolando noticed Li Qi's reaction and asked, "Why are you asking about that?" "Nothing, just asking," Li Qi said, shaking his head. "Keep going." Rolando grew solemn. The third type, hunting missions, are the most dangerous. The death rate is high. How high? Li Qi asked. Rolando's face darkened. I only took part in one. Even then, the death rate was over 20%. That's considered low for hunting missions. Li Qi's skin chilled. If 20% is low, then the 47% death rate I heard about in this camp might be true. Rolando nodded. As for leaving, normally students can leave after completing the first 3 trial missions within 5 years. If they choose to stay longer, they can only leave after completing a hunting mission. He added, students who sign special agreements and those born on the Lava Empire's cultivation planets must complete 10 trial missions, meaning they'll likely have to go on 2 or 3 hunting missions before they can leave. Rolando hesitated, then added quietly, there's also another way to leave the stellar cultivation camp. If I feel better tomorrow, I should be able to update 2 chapters. Chapter 50, the most dangerous trial mission type. There's another way out of the stellar cultivation camp, Rolando said. You can enter the Lava Secret Realm. The Lava Secret Realm is the Lava Empire's premier genius cultivation base. It's produced many competitors for the Cosmic Peak Genius Battle and even super geniuses who rank among the top 10,000 in the universe. To get into the Lava Secret Realm, you have to go through the Stellar Cultivation Camp, even if it's only a formality. That's why the Lava Empire and the families from more than a dozen neighboring intermediate universe countries are so eager to have their members pass through the camp. Rolando looked at Li Qi. Didn't your family send you here so you could enter the Lava Secret Realm? A planetary-level domain genius like you would definitely aim for the Lava Secret Realm, as long as you don't die during the camp's trial missions, Li Qi replied. Rolando blinked. You think I belong to a big family? Li Qi raised an eyebrow. If you could get into the Lava Secret Realm, nobody would refuse. Rolando shrugged. Of course. Continue. Finish explaining the final hunting mission, Li Qi said, steering the conversation back. Rolando nodded. Hunting missions break down into 3 types, eliminating star pirates, apprehending fugitives, and planetary hunting. From the names, you can guess the difficulty. All 3 pit students against ruthless people with blood on their hands. Eliminating star pirates requires cooperation with the Imperial Army to assault pirate lairs. Students act as the vanguard. The casualty rate is very high. Because there aren't many star pirate strongholds, these missions are rare. Apprehending fugitives has the lowest death rate among hunting missions. Students do them alone or in teams depending on the number of fugitives. The Empire only provides intelligence support, but poor intel still causes many students to fail and die. The most common is planetary hunting. The Empire places heavily sentenced criminals, sometimes even those condemned to death, on a planet, then sends students in to hunt them. It looks like the students are hunting the criminals, but the criminals hunt the students too. For every student they kill, they get a reduced sentence. Worse, they can form teams of up to 4. Individually, those criminals might not be that strong, but they'll do anything to survive. They'll use seriously wounded companions as bait, even if those companions die when a student attacks. My previous hunting mission was a planetary hunting, Rolando continued. Many students were targeted by criminals because they went in alone. Li Qi frowned, thinking. Among the 3 trial missions, hunting missions are the most dangerous and have the highest death toll, and they happen in the 3rd trial. The opponents are all people, star pirates, fugitives, criminals, and anyone designated as a target by the camp has to have a certain level of strength and resources. Planetary hunting is the worst because unscrupulous criminals have no bottom line. Then his expression softened. Planetary-level domain geniuses do get some preferential treatment. The Bloodblade Cone is issued after the 2nd trial mission. That gives me a chance to increase my strength before the hunting mission and improve my survival and combat ability. Anything else you want to know? Rolando asked, sensing the change in Li Qi's mood. He remembered how he'd felt when he first learned about hunting missions. Li Qi asked, "Can points be exchanged for nutrient solutions to grow stronger?" "Of course," Rolando said. "It only takes 10 points to advance from basic planetary level to planetary level rank 9. For astral ranks, the initial cost to advance is 20 points, and the required points double for each subsequent rank. So moving from astral rank 1 to rank 2 needs 20 points, rank 2 to rank 3 needs 40, and so on, up to astral rank 8 to rank 9 at 2,560 points. Because advancement costs vary so wildly, students entering the Stellar Cultivation Camp are required not to exceed astral rank 5. Rolando then asked, "May I ask you something?" Li Qi was a little surprised. "Go ahead." "Why are you a planetary-level domain genius, but only planetary-level rank 8, Rolando asked. If Li Qi were rank 9, he wouldn't have risked betting so many points. Li Qi produced his prepared explanation. "I wasn't a planetary-level domain genius before. I only comprehended the domain on my way to the Stellar Cultivation Camp." "So that's why," Rolando said, a little speechless. He considered himself unlucky to meet someone who developed a domain en route. After a moment, he asked, "Anything else?" Li Qi thought a moment. "Can secret manuals be exchanged for points in the camp? And what quality are they?" "Secret manuals can be exchanged," Rolando replied, "but most are average, common manuals from nearby universe countries. Families at the Territory Lord rank with somewhat stronger foundations typically have them." "Average secret manuals, huh? So the profound ones must be in the lava secret realm," Li Qi said, nodding. "I have nothing more to ask. If you don't either, I'll concede," Li Qi added. Rolando glanced at Li Qi's youthful face and decided to be helpful. "You don't have many points just after entering. I suggest you exchange for a rank 1 force armor to boost your survivability and pick up some B-grade metal throwing knives to use as a mind energy weapon." Li Qi muttered that buying a rank 1 mind energy weapon wasn't a problem, then smiled and thanked Rolando for the advice. A light screen appeared before him with the option to concede. Li Qi tapped confirm, vanished from the grassland in a flash of white light, and left the combat space. A moment later, a screen popped up in front of Rolando. He had won the bet and gained 20 points. He stared at the notification and murmured, "Domain, how I envy him." Rolando had long ago perfected his techniques, but without comprehending a concept, he would never have a true domain. Don't be fooled by the camp's size. It holds 2,000 to 3,000 students, yet those who have comprehended a domain are very rare, at most 1%. Even if a genius of that rank doesn't enter the lava secret realm, they won't have trouble finding a place after the camp. Many forces will seek them out. After conceding and exiting the combat space, Li Qi went offline and left the virtual universe. Chapter 51. Breakthrough to the star level. Li Qi logged out of the virtual universe and returned to the real world. He sat on the edge of his bed, working out how best to spend the 230 points he'd earned in the stellar cultivation camp. Those points would easily cover a first-order mind energy weapon and a first-order force armor. Any leftovers could be used to buy nutrient solution enhancements. With his 32-fold life gene advantage, strengthening his genetic primal energy was the priority. A solid foundation would pay dividends later. As a Psyker Master, his Psyker Master rank could sit 2 ranks higher than his genetic primal energy rank. If he pushed his genetic primal energy to Astral rank 3rd order, his Psyker Master rank would rise to Astral rank 5th order. Combined with his 32-fold life gene level, the kind of advantage that allowed someone to contend across 4 ranks, his effective Psyker Master strength could reach the equivalent of star level 9th order. That was the terrifying power of a high life gene level. The stronger he became, the better his chances of surviving and thriving in the stellar cultivation camp. So he resolved to maximize his fundamentals first, then buy secret text scriptures to further enhance his abilities. After a short rest, Li Qi reconnected to the virtual universe and entered the camp to continue his training. He had originally planned to challenge someone to a gamble, but remembered Rolando wasn't the only person who'd found out he was a planetary-level domain genius. 2 other students had been present when the secret leaked. Word had probably already spread throughout the camp. Time passed. San C1 departed Kuka Star, and after more than a month, finally reached San C Star. At the spaceport, Li Qi and Borswell disembarked and boarded a shuttle for the stellar cultivation camp. On the way, Li Qi asked, "Are your crew being reassigned now?" "Yes," Borswell nodded. "They've announced that San C1 has a malfunction. All crew members except the captain will accompany San C1 to Lava Emperor Star for repairs." Li Qi shook his head. "That's a casual excuse. Is a D9 class ship really that easy to break?" He was half speechless. But at least the crew weren't being silenced. "I have 8 years left on my term. After that, I'll return to Lava Emperor Star. If you have enough points, exchange them for nutrient solution first and use it to strengthen your genetic primal energy," Borswell advised. "I'll administer the nutrient solution enhancements for you over these 8 years." Li Qi nodded. He knew how important that was. He wanted to keep the oddity of his high life gene level hidden, so having someone discreet to help with enhancements was crucial. Borswell was the best candidate. "Your identity as a planetary level domain genius has already been entered into the camp's database," Borswell added. "After we arrive, I'll help you raise your genetic primal energy to planetary level 9th order. Once you're ready to break through to astral rank, tell me before you undergo nutrient solution enhancement." "Understood," Li Qi agreed. Borswell closed his eyes to rest. He still felt grateful to the young man beside him. Without certain circumstances, he might never have had the opportunity to serve as the Lava Emperor's personal guard. The shuttle docked at the stellar cultivation camp, and the hatch opened. "Familiarize yourself with the camp," Borswell told Li Qi. "I'll report to the person in charge and then notify you when the enhancement room is ready." Li Qi followed the staff on a tour. San C Star was exactly as its name implied, a planet of endless deserts. Even with an atmosphere to temper the sun's heat, surface temperatures remained high, and the environment was inhospitable to anyone below planetary level. The real camp was slightly larger than the virtual one, though the buildings looked similar. After the tour and a visit to his assigned dormitory, Li Qi received a short message from Borswell. "I'm waiting for you at the enhancement room." Li Qi went straight there. Borswell met him outside. "Follow me." The enhancement facility was a separate building with many rooms. Passing down a long corridor, Borswell led Li Qi to a small, inconspicuous chamber in the complex's interior. "This enhancement room is special," Borswell said. "From now on, besides you and me, only the camp director has permission to enter." "Understood," Li Qi replied. "You'll use this room for all your nutrient solution enhancements," Borswell continued. "First, raise your genetic primal energy to planetary level 9th order peak." Li Qi stripped and lay down in the nutrient solution tank. Borswell set the machine and adjusted the flow. Rich, vitality-laden solution began to circulate. Li Qi lay back and let the essence seep into him, evaluating its composition silently. This batch felt richer in vitality, far better than the nutrient solution he'd used on Sansi-1. 3 days later, the tank signaled with a soft click. Li Qi climbed out, dressed quickly, and Borswell finally opened his eyes. Your genetic primal energy is now planetary level 9th order, peak. You can apply for the data and resources to break through to astral rank. I'll apply right away, Li Qi said. Contact me when you need another enhancement, Borswell added, then walked out. Li Qi bowed his thanks. Then he used his communicator to apply for astral rank breakthrough data and resources. His status as a planetary-level domain genius drew attention in the Sansi Stellar Cultivation Camp. The application was processed quickly. A reply came within a short time. The subject line read only 4 large characters. Application approved. The message contained the breakthrough data and the location to collect the necessary resources. Li Qi collected the materials, returned to his dorm, and decided not to rush the breakthrough. He would settle his affairs and prepare for a few days before initiating the procedure. 5 days later, in his dormitory, Li Qi sat cross-legged with 2 metal cases in front of him. One box was already empty. The other still held the resources for his next step. He closed his eyes and began. Following the breakthrough data step by step, he first condensed 9 miniature planets in his sea of consciousness. He detonated and merged them together. With the assistance of the breakthrough resources and the precise method he'd studied, he easily condensed a star-like sphere in his inner sea. When the astral rank sphere formed, an invisible fluctuation washed over his whole body and his physiology began to change. His physical condition, which had been at the peak of planetary level and could no longer improve, shattered that ceiling and leapt into astral rank. The sensation was exhilarating. Li Qi felt his life level surge forward, power expanding through every fiber of his being. This feeling is incredible, he murmured. Without pause, he took the second portion of resources and followed the genetic breakthrough procedure. In a focused, controlled effort, he elevated his genetic primal energy to astral rank as well. Chapter 52, Points Exchange and Enhancement. After breaking through to astral rank, Li Qi spent a few days getting used to his new power. In his dorm, he swiped the holographic screen. The Stellar Cultivation Camp requires new students to complete 3 trial missions within 5 years. That doesn't leave much time. Each trial mission could take several months or even a year. Finish 3 in 5 years, and most of that time would be swallowed by missions, leaving less than 3 years for actual cultivation. For beings with an epoch-long lifespan of 10,081 years, that was hardly generous. First, I'll spend my points, he decided. If I exchange for a first-order mind energy weapon and a first-order force armor, how many points will I have left? He opened the camp's exchange interface and scrolled for a suitable first-order mind energy weapon. After the second trial mission, I'll get the special reward, the Bloodblade Cone, a second-order telekinesis weapon, so I only need a mind energy weapon for the meantime. Among Psyker Masters, there was a saying, only a fool uses a mind energy weapon without a flying form. A flying form greatly increases flight speed, and speed often means survival. When facing an unbeatable enemy, a Psyker Master could switch to a flying form and escape, so whether a weapon had a flying form mattered. Li Qi ignored weapons that lacked one. He paused at the cloud-soaring sword, priced at 87 points. It separated and recombined and was known for unpredictable, bewildering attacks, popular in the Sand Sea camp, but it leaned heavily toward offense. Once I get the Bloodblade Cone, I won't need this, he thought. Better get something more defensive. There weren't many first-order options, but he soon found one he liked. The Heavy Defense Disc. Form 1 is the initial flying form, Form 2 is the attacking form, Round Blade Disc, and Form 3 is the defensive form, Heavy Defense Shield. In flight, it was a flat black oval with a pointed front and smooth rear to cut air resistance. In attack form, it resembled a circular flying disc with many blades on the edge. In defensive form, it became a large round shield. A weapon that could both attack and defend seemed ideal. 89 points. Done. Next, he bought a standard first-order force armor for 80 points. Mind energy weapon and force armor together cost 169 points. That leaves me 61. With 61 points left, he checked the Secret Art Codex exchange. My mind power is 32 times that of a psyker master of the same rank. If I learn an offensive secret art, I might seriously wound a martial artist of the same rank. The codices were divided into martial artist, psyker master, and general categories, then into many subcategories. He found the psyker master mental attack techniques and read through several. He liked one called soul-piercing needle, compress mind power into a fine needle to attack the enemy's sea of consciousness, with exceptional penetration that made it easier to break through mental defenses. But it cost 104 points. Li Qi shook his head. Too expensive. Soul-piercing needle was relatively cheap among mental attack codices, yet still cost more than a first-order mind energy weapon. The priciest first-order weapon was only 96 points. Since the codex was out of reach, Li Qi turned his attention to enhancing his nutrient cabin. 61 points can raise my genetic primal energy to astral rank 3rd order, and my mind power would reach astral rank 5th order. Jumping 4 ranks could make me comparable to a star-level 9th order psyker master. Surprised at how quickly he could boost his strength, Li Qi messaged Borswell and submitted an application for nutrient cabin enhancement at the Sanxi camp, spending 60 points to raise himself to astral rank 3rd order. Before heading to the enhancement room, he picked up the heavy defense disc and the force armor, then made his way to the enhancement facility. Borswell was waiting at the entrance. Li Qi. Borswell led him inside to the same room he'd used before. Li Qi set aside his new equipment, stripped down, and entered the nutrient cabin. Borswell glanced at him and did a quick mental tally. Mind energy weapon and force armor total 169 points. He still has points to enhance to astral rank 3rd order, so he must have won over 30 points in gambling. He snorted. Having spent nearly 100 years in the Sanxi Stellar Cultivation camp, Borswell knew the veterans' caution. They normally gambled only 20 points. If an older student lost, word would spread fast, and they'd never gamble against that person again. Winning 30 points showed real skill. Not bad, he murmured. After several days in the nutrient cabin, Li Qi's genetic primal energy rose from astral rank 1st order to astral rank 3rd order. He stepped out of the cabin, used his force armor to form casual clothes, clenched his fist, and felt the change. Much stronger. I need time to adapt. Astral rank 3rd order provided 4 times the genetic primal energy of astral rank 1st order. Combined with improved physical conditioning, he was noticeably more powerful. When the enhancement finished, Borswell left. His task had been to guard Li Qi during the procedure. Li Qi didn't return to his dorm. He went straight to the training room to get used to his enhanced body. Old students watched him along the way. Word had spread that he was a planetary-level domain genius, and everyone was curious. After several days of adaptation, Li Qi, now down to a single point and unable to spend more, submitted his application for a trial mission. 17 days later, the Sanxi Stellar Cultivation Camp's ship touched down on Red 13N, a resource world in the Lava Empire. The planet was entirely crimson, its surface crisscrossed with deep mining shafts. The hatch clicked open, and Li Qi, with 20-plus other students, stepped out. Information flooded into his mind. Resource planet Red 13N, diameter 9,642 kilometers. No atmosphere, harsh environment, high levels of cosmic radiation. Life below astral rank cannot survive. He looked out over bare, red mountains and rows of towering drilling rigs. Above, the dark void stretched into infinity, punctured by distant stars and the constant star bathing the landscape in faint light and heat. It was his first time operating on an airless world. Everything felt strange and new. All right, you have 3 months on this planet to complete the collection mission, the camp's cosmic-level instructor announced. This trial mission will be transmitted in full through the virtual universe, so don't depend on the miners here to complete your tasks. Collection targets will be sent to your communicators in 10 minutes. Good luck. The hatch sealed with a soft click. According to Camp Intel, there are no plants on this planet, only the Lava Empire's miners, one student muttered. The targets will probably be minerals. Treating us like miners, another complained. You'll get used to it. This mission is considered easy, a third said. For many of the students, it did look simple. No hunting vicious beasts, no collecting exotic flora, just mining. Safer, at least. 10 minutes later, the collection targets appeared on their communicators. Li Qi scanned his screen and clicked his tongue. Mineral collection and deep shaft mining at that. He had 13 mineral targets. For every 10 tons collected, he would receive 1 point, with a maximum of 10 points per mineral type. If he managed to collect the full quota for every mineral, he could earn up to 130 points. Without talking to anyone else, Li Qi opened the red 13N map and set off for the nearest shaft, hovering on his heavy defense disc. Red 13N wasn't huge and its resources were limited. Everyone's mission lists were similar, so cooperation was unlikely. The planet's atmosphere-less conditions and constant cosmic interference meant the mining rigs were robust but not precise. Operations depended heavily on skilled human oversight. Li Qi slid into a tunnel and flew deeper along the passage. Not long after, he passed several miners, astral rank laborers, working the shaft. One of them caught his eye. Li Qi felt a flicker of recognition, but couldn't place him. With his astral rank memory, if the man were truly familiar, he would have known it for sure. He shrugged it off. Red 13N was far from his home on Kuka Star. It was unlikely he'd run into anyone he knew. "Is that?" one miner murmured as Li Qi drifted past. "Oh, that's probably someone from one of the Empire's stellar cultivation camps," another said. "They come through every few years, sometimes more often, sometimes less." "Stellar cultivation camp? Really?" the first miner said, incredulous. "Yes, brilliant youths from the camp. The Empire's top talents. Boundless futures," the other replied, envy thick in his voice. He glanced at his companion with scorn. "Unlike us, stuck here digging day after day." The man they'd been watching was Marcel Holke, one of the miners exiled to Red 13. He'd once made things difficult for Li Qi during Chaoguang Academy's entrance exams, and after abusing his position, had been stripped of his instructor post. Investigations revealed embezzlement of imperial property. Marcel was sentenced to work this planet to repay what he owed, with interest and fines that translated into an impossible debt in contribution points. At his current rate, it would take him over a century to return to Kuka Star. Some of the other fallen instructors were even worse off, stuck here for life, unless they dug up something extraordinarily valuable. Marcel stood frozen, worries about his family playing across his face. "I wonder how they're doing. Did the Royce family retaliate?" he thought. "Hey, Marcel, snap out of it and get back to work," a fellow miner snapped. He forced himself to move. Worrying wouldn't pay his debt, only hard mining would. Li Qi, having long since forgotten the brief encounter, pushed on. According to his map, there was a tool depot nearby. He grabbed necessary equipment and moved into an unoccupied shaft. 3 months passed. Thump, thump, thump. The steady rhythm of mining and refining marked the days. Li Qi's luck and skill paid off. He filled quotas for several minerals and finished the mission with a total of 94 points, placing him among the top scorers in this trial. He boarded the transport and returned to the Sanxi Stellar Cultivation Camp. Back in his room, he tallied his points. Adding the 1 point I had left before, that makes 95. The soul-piercing needle's secret technique required 104 points. He was short. He weighed his options. A single lesson from a territory lord rank instructor cost 50 points. Spending that would leave him with 45, and after the next trial mission, he'd likely have enough to exchange for the soul-piercing needle. Alternatively, spending 80 points on nutrient capsule enhancement would leave him with only 15 points. Even with the next mission's gains, he might still fall short. After a moment's thought, he decided to invest in his strength. The soul-piercing needle can wait, he told himself. If I raise my genetic primal energy rank, my Psyker Master rank will increase naturally, and the needle's power will grow along with me. He planned to spend 80 points on nutrient capsule enhancement to push his genetic primal energy rank up to constant star level 4. That would lift his Psyker Master rank to Astral rank 6. With a 32-fold life gene level, he'd be able to fight across 4 ranks within the same realm, making him a formidable presence within the Stellar Cultivation Camp. Chapter 54. Check smuggling back at the Sand Sea. Stellar Cultivation Camp. Li Qi contacted Borswell to upgrade his nutrient cabin. He spent 80 points in several days to raise his genetic primal energy rank to constant star level 4. Since applying for a trial mission also took time, he submitted his application as soon as the enhancement was finished. A few days later, the Stellar Cultivation Camp Dispatch Headquarters replied, a terse message that included only a spaceship login verification. Li Qi knew the dispatch headquarters. It handled supply allocation and trial missions for the 3 major stellar cultivation camps and wielded considerable authority. Only after he boarded the ship did his communicator finally deliver the trial assignment. A patrol mission? Li Qi muttered as he read the briefing. Border patrols and anti-smuggling inspections carried risks, but with a universe-rank expert leading the operation, it should be manageable. Instructors who led camp students were generally universe rank 8 or 9, among the strongest at that rank, and with one of them in command, student safety was usually secure unless someone courted death or fate dealt a particularly cruel hand. The detailed briefing arrived after several days of space travel, investigating smuggling as part of a patrol mission. 20 students would be divided into 4 small teams and would link up with a 5-person squad from the Empire's investigation department to form a 26-person task force for 6 months. Li Qi frowned at the next line. The mission required cooperation with other students, which meant he would have to hide some of his strength and not reveal anything beyond his Psyker Master rank. He could, however, display his domain. Being a planetary-level domain genius was widely known and would be hard to hide. He scrolled to his team roster. His team was 5 people, 4 males and 1 female, Li Qi listed as captain. He was a little surprised. After checking the profiles, it made sense. His genetic primal energy rank at constant star level 4, a Psyker Master rank of constant star level 6, and a comprehended domain made him the strongest of the group. None of the others exceeded constant star level 5. One had only just broken through to constant star level 1. Being captain wouldn't be easy. At the bottom of the briefing screen, captain responsibilities were spelled out. For every team member who survived to the end of the mission, the captain would receive 5 points. But if a member died, 20 points would be deducted, 4 times the reward. The system clearly existed to force captains to restrain their teams and discourage reckless solo actions. If a captain couldn't control their people, the team would fragment, and independent moves would follow. Li Qi was confident he could restrain them. His status as a planetary-level domain genius and a constant star level 6 Psyker Master should earn their trust and obedience. He sent invitations to the 4 team members to meet, and soon 3 young men and 1 young woman arrived. "Captain," they greeted him. "I'm Li Qi," he said. "You've all heard of me already." They nodded in unison. Everyone knew the camp's planetary-level domain genius. Li Qi relaxed and suggested a simple talk. The conversation went smoothly. None of them were troublemakers, and all seemed willing to follow his lead. Afterward, they returned to their cabins to await the Empire's investigation team. 14 days later, on a busy route planet in the Lava Empire, Li Qi and the teams rendezvoused with the 5-person investigation department squad. Li Qi noticed tensions in another student team. Their captain had only 2 followers, while the other 2 members had formed a mini-faction against him. After the meeting, Li Qi's group deferred to the investigation team. These professionals would handle the technical and legal aspects, while the students acted as enforcers. Their cosmic-level instructor had already made it clear, if a ship refused inspection by the investigation team, they were to be engaged. Over the next few months, the task force stopped at planet after planet, intercepting dozens of ships and confiscating a large amount of contraband. No captain dared refuse inspection. One who tried to flee was restrained by his own crew. Just as Li Qi began to think the 6-month mission would end uneventfully, the investigation team captain called a meeting of all student captains. "According to intelligence, a smuggling vessel will arrive at Star Macrocable," he announced. A star chart filled the light screen. Star Macrocable showed up as one of the busiest planets on the route. This vessel will unload near Star Macrocable, then pick up declared legitimate goods at Star Macrocable and depart through a wormhole, the captain explained, tracing a line from Star Macrocable to the wormhole and circling the planet. "We need to intercept them before they reach Star Macrocable so we can catch them red-handed." How do we find them in such a vast area? A captain asked. The investigation team captain zoomed in on the starry region around Star Macrocable, revealing several satellites in orbit. He pointed to one labeled W998. This satellite is often used as an unloading point, he said, then gestured to the adjacent satellite, W997. We'll hide behind W997. When the smuggling vessel approaches W998, we'll move out and intercept. That's the plan. Any questions or additions? He asked. Li Qi reviewed the scheme and inwardly winced. The plan was crude and full of loopholes, but the anti-smuggling mission was being run by the Empire's investigation department, and the students were essentially backup enforcers. Their role was to follow orders. One captain simply nodded that his team could join at any time. The others agreed. Good. Return to your teams and prepare for battle, the investigation team captain ordered loudly, then led a chant. For your majesty, lava. Li Qi echoed, for your majesty, lava. A few of the other captains exchanged surprised looks, as if they hadn't expected Li Qi to be so fervent. The investigation team captain, however, looked on with approval and filed a high impression to be noted after the trial concluded. The meeting ended. The investigation vessel set course to hide behind W997 and wait for the smuggling ship's arrival. Chapter 2 cannot be finished now. It will be released with tomorrow's update once completed. Chapter 55, Boarding Operations. After the meeting, Li Qi gathered his 4 teammates and relayed its contents. When he finished, the only woman on the team couldn't help blurting out, "Isn't this plan a bit?" She trailed off, but everyone understood. Crude was the word. The mission was simply to investigate smuggling. The operation itself lacked subtlety. A male teammate sighed. We're supposed to cooperate with the Empire's investigation team. Even if we don't like the plan, we still have to follow their orders. Another student looked to Li Qi. Captain, what do you think? All eyes turned to him. Though the youngest on the team, Li Qi was the strongest, someone who had comprehended a domain, and they respected him for it. If that smuggling ship doesn't resist, fine, Li Qi said. But if they fight to the end, we'll be forced into combat. He rubbed his brow. How many crew are on that ship? What are their strengths? We have no intel, no intelligence. Facing an unknown enemy, nothing was more dangerous. According to the combat plan, I'll be the core. We'll confront them together, he added. Everyone nodded. They all felt the same. With Li Qi's protection, their chances would be much better. Several days later, a routine B-class cargo ship slipped out from the dark universe and reappeared in the real universe, heading for W998. In the cargo ship's cockpit, several crew members monitored displays while 2 of them chatted. One had a lizard-like head with soft, rounded features, a lizardman, a branch of the human race. The other had a wolf-like head and black-gray fur, the black-gray wolf clan, a werewolf. Both wore force armor and carried original force weapons within easy reach. The other cockpit crew were similarly equipped. How's it looking? Has the receiving ship shown up yet? The lizardman asked. Just heard back. The werewolf replied. They won't arrive until tomorrow. Tsk, the lizardman snapped, clearly displeased. Those guys are useless. Late again. The werewolf seized on the complaint. Captain, I think we should cut them off. This is the 4th delay. Time is everything in our line of work. Even a minute can get you killed. Their lateness raises our risk. If they weren't paying so well, the lizardman sneered, I wouldn't bother working with them. Greed softened his tone as he thought of the price. Still, this batch is high quality. If it weren't for maintaining our credibility, swallowing it would be tempting. There's no channel to sell this load except in the Lava Empire. The werewolf nodded. The goods were valuable, but without credibility, they'd lose their market in the surrounding intermediate universe countries and would have to start over elsewhere. That cost might be bearable, but there was no alternative route to sell this shipment. The Lava Empire was the only place where it would bring top price. While the smuggling ship's leaders argued, Li Qi and his teammates waited inside the investigation ship, hidden beyond W997. When the investigation captain's communicator flashed, Li Qi stood first. They're here. Let's go. People moved quickly and assembled. The captain's eyes flashed. Prepare for battle. We won't issue an investigation notice. We will launch a direct boarding operation. Direct boarding? Li Qi frowned. There were no breakthrough ships visible on their vessel. The universe-rank mentor leading the team was calm and familiar with the protocol. I'll go up first. Each squad will act according to the combat plan. Understood. They had all received the plan. Each team had a designated sector. The investigation ship shuddered as it accelerated. Activate holographic simulation, the captain ordered. The cabin shifted into a starfield. Li Qi and the others found themselves projected into the dark universe. Far off was the B-class cargo ship, too distant to make out details, but clearly large and closing rapidly. Li Qi felt the ship's speed increase. It was closing fast. His expression tightened. They're going to collide. Prepare for impact. Follow me when I go up, the mentor barked. In the cargo ship, alarms screamed. A crew member stared at the radar in disbelief. Boss, a ship's closing fast. 10 seconds to contact. There's no time to evade. The lizardman's face went pale. No time to evade? Where did they come from? From behind W997. They apparently have advanced radar shielding. We didn't detect them, the crew member answered. Damn it, the lizardman cursed. They can shield a D9 class radar? Must be the Lava Empire's mad dogs. Before he finished, the cargo ship lurched violently from a direct hit. Red alarms cast the cockpit in a strobing glow. The werewolf shouted, "Report ship damage. Engine room, 91% damaged. Can't provide power," a trembling voice replied. Engine room's ruined. This batch is lost. Retreat, the werewolf urged. The lizardman grabbed his Third Order Original Force greatsword and roared, "We can't be caught by the Lava Empire's mad dogs." Alert the crew. Retreat. Abandon the cargo, the werewolf shouted. Fully armed, they were the first to leave the cockpit, followed by the others grabbing their weapons and flooding for the exits. Chapter 56, Spaceship versus Enemy. The starfield spread vast and cold. A B-class cargo ship, thousands of meters long, drifted near W9998. From behind W997, an inspection vessel flashed out and slammed straight into the cargo ship's engine room. In the silent vacuum of space, the inspection vessel's sharp prow pierced the cargo ship's alloy hull. Dozens of meters of the intruder thrust deep into the engine compartment. The inspection vessel's hatch popped open. The universe-rank instructor who led the boarding team fired out first, followed by Li Qi and the others. As they spilled into the ruined engine room, warning lights stuttered, and the ship's energy systems crackled around the rending metal. Massive machinery had been skewered by the inspection craft. Move. Our objective is the lower cargo hold, the instructor ordered. Li Qi waved to the teammates behind him and followed the map supplied by the inspection captain. They flew down corridors toward their assigned sector. Not long after leaving the engine room, the five rounded a corner and ran headlong into two figures. Both sides tensed. Recognition didn't come. They were enemies. Heavy defense disc, Li Qi thought. His heavy defense disc, in mid-flight, dissolved in a flash of black metal and reformed before him into a circular shield. It took a moment to finish coalescing, then hung between him and the pair. Across from them stood a tall, one-eyed man in First-Order Force armor, gripping a Second-Order Original Force weapon. Golden genetic primal energy surged along the weapon's runes. "You think you can block me?" he snarled, and slammed his battle staff down with a roar. The strike hit the circular disc with a deafening clang. Li Qi, his mind power already stronger than a star-level Ninth Order, easily held the impact. The one-eyed man froze in disbelief. His weapon, amplified to the equivalent of a constant star level 5 with a tenfold power boost, had been stopped by what should have been only a first-order mind energy device. If the disc had been an ordinary first-order mind energy weapon, it would likely have failed. But the first-order mind energy weapons used by the three stellar cultivation camps under the Lava Empire were specially customized, constructed of materials far tougher than ordinary models. As he blocked, Li Qi also sent a concise mental signal to his teammates. 1 constant star level 5, 1 constant star level 4. Execute the plan. The female on Li Qi's side, a Psyker Master who had only just broken through to constant star level 1, had already switched to a first-order force armor. She launched 25 B9 grade metal mind energy daggers from her palm and drove them straight at the other enemy. The remaining 3 members were martial artists, each wielding first-order original force weapons and shields. They pressed forward at Li Qi's flanks. The one-eyed man's face twisted with killing intent as the runes on his second-order weapon flared. "Die!" he bellowed and swung his staff, invoking a tenfold amplification. At the same instant, a green field snapped out around him, an enveloping domain that suppressed his strength and drastically reduced his mobility. The three martial artists, unaffected, activated the runes on their first-order weapons and channeled an 18-fold power surge. They struck, cutting through the one-eyed man's first-order force armor. Deep, bone-bearing wounds tore across his chest and arm. Blood sprayed. "What?" he gasped, shocked that what looked like first-order weapons could breach his armor so quickly. Pain and disbelief interrupted his counterattack. He swung his staff wildly and managed to hit one of the martial artists, but another black shield flashed up and absorbed the blow. The three pressed the advantage and ripped open more wounds. "Li Luo, help me!" the one-eyed man howled. The man called Li Luo, a tall, thin youth in second-order force armor, was already struggling. In one hand, he clutched a first-order original force weapon. In the other, a B9 grade metal battle shield. When he joined the smuggling fleet, he had only been Constant Star Level 1. He'd bought second-order force armor for protection. The armor shrugged off many of the Mind Energy Dagger's strikes, so at first, Li Luo had not been overly worried. But the Psyker's intent wasn't to injure him so much as to pin him in place. The barrage of flying daggers pushed him back repeatedly, making it impossible for him to close the distance to his brother. Seeing Li Luo held off, the one-eyed man's panic grew. Stuck in the suppressive domain and bleeding out, he realized he might not last. "Li Luo, run! Get out of here!" he screamed. Li Luo's eyes went sorrowful and hard at the sight of his companion covered in blood. The one-eyed man was his only brother on the ship, bonded through half a dozen life-or-death fights. But there was nothing he could do in the narrow corridor while daggers hammered him from every side. "I'll remember your faces," Li Luo muttered, jaw clenched. "I'll have my revenge." He planted his shield and used the force of another volley to shove himself backward, trying to buy distance and escape. At that moment, the black heavy defense disc in front of Li Qi dissolved again, this time dispersing into a torrent of metallic shards that reassembled into a spinning circular blade. "Go," Li Qi commanded silently. The blade disc whirred and shot down the corridor, an impossible speed closing on Li Luo in an instant. Li Luo spun around, hair lifting with the sudden danger. He dropped his shield instinctively, but the blade hit before he could bring it up properly. The spinning disc sliced into his left arm. The second-order force armor held for a breath but then tore open, blood spouted. "Ah!" Li Luo screamed. His left arm had been severed by the blade. The armor's framework held the stump in place so the limb didn't fall away, but it hung useless and ruined, limp at his side. Chapter 57, The Cruelty of the Universe. "This is impossible. That's clearly a first-order mind energy weapon." Li Luo shouted, bewildered. "How could it pierce my second-order force armor?" Enduring the pain, he forced his right hand to trigger the sigils on his first-order original force sword. With a single strike, he split the round blade disc apart. Clang! The metal shield in his left hand fell to the floor with a bright metallic ring. Run! After cutting the disc, Li Luo wanted nothing more than to get away. Fast. Learning from his earlier mistake, he didn't turn his back on Li Qi and the others this time. He fled while facing them so he could block any more mind energy attacks. "Li Luo," the one-eyed man shouted. Seeing his companion's arm severed by the disc, he ignored his own wounds and, fighting the domain's restraint, thrust his battle staff at Li Qi. He knew the young, soft-faced man had just used a mind weapon. If he could hold him off even a moment longer, Li Luo might escape. "Want to hurt the captain? Ask me first," one of the team members jeered, intercepting the staff. The other two pressed the attack, slicing 2 deep wounds into the one-eyed man. He spat blood, his injuries were severe, and he was losing strength fast. "Die!" another team member roared. He gripped his sword with both hands, lightning-grade genetic primal energy lighting up the weapon's runes. With a single, flashing strike, he cut across the one-eyed man's neck. Thud! Blood spattered as head and body separated. Finally dead, the killer sighed with relief. This guy's body was really tough. "It's lucky we had the captain's domain restraint," another said. "Alone, it would have been hard to kill him. He could have escaped." The three nodded. The one-eyed man had been troublesome, A tough body and a second-order original force weapon made him dangerous. Without Li Qi's domain suppression, they wouldn't have had the chance. "Captain," they called, watching Li Qi pursue the remaining enemy. The fleeing man was experienced and prepared. Li Qi's round blade disc could no longer score anything more than glancing blows, bounced away by the opponent's battle sword. "Chase!" Li Qi commanded, withdrawing his domain and giving pursuit. A female team member launched a volley of mind energy throwing knives, but the B9 grade metal blades had little power against Li Luo's second-order force armor. He snarled as he led them into the maze of the smuggler ship, ducking through rooms and corridors he knew well, making it difficult for Li Qi's team to close the gap. Finally, Li Luo's route brought them into the lower cargo hold. A chill washed over Li Qi. The lower hold was refrigerated. Rows upon rows of shelving stretched away. One aisle alone ran over 1,000 meters. Metal crates lined the shelves, each about 2.5 meters long and 1.5 meters tall and wide. "What is this?" Li Qi muttered, a bad feeling crawling up his spine. A sudden bang echoed through the hold. The team flashed toward the sound. There in the middle of a row stood Li Luo, tall and thin, striking one of the metal boxes with his original force sword. Seeing them arrive, he struck again and smiled coldly. "You finally came. You can't escape," Li Qi said, his voice hard. "Right, I can't escape," Li Luo said, smiling with something vicious in it. "There's a domain expert among you. I'm not running anymore." The others felt a chill at his expression. Li Luo shoved his sword into the metal box he had opened. The blade pierced with a sizzling screech. He ripped the metal open and hauled out a cold humanoid lump. "That's a person!" Li Qi exclaimed. The figure was clearly human, frozen but still alive. Li Qi understood at once. This ship was smuggling people. "No wonder the Lava Empire's inspection department sent a boarding team right away," one of his men murmured. "Don't you want to rescue them?" Li Luo barked like a madman. "Can you save them now?" With a single brutal punch, he smashed the frozen person he'd pulled out, sending ice shards and severed limbs flying. "Damn you!" Li Qi's anger flared. He pushed out his mind power in an exploding surge toward Li Luo's brain. As a 6th-order star-level Psyker Master with a 32-fold life gene level, his mental strength was immense, stronger than many 9th-order Psyker Masters. The assault slammed into Li Luo, who was only a constant star 4th-order martial artist. The impact shattered Li Luo's mind. He reeled, dazed, eyes glazing over. "Die!" Li Qi roared. His divine thought reassembled the heavy defense disc into a spinning round blade disc. It darted and sliced through Li Luo's head with a cold buzz. In an instant, the man's body and head separated. He was dead. As his fury ebbed, Li Qi looked across the packed shelves. Thousands of metal boxes marched away into the cold, row after row. A weight settled in his chest, an ugly, hollow sickness. He had read Swallowed Star and knew the universe could be cruel, but reading about cruelty was different from seeing it. In his previous life on Earth, he had known war and suffering only as distant reports, news he could ignore. Now he stood among frozen, boxed people, proof that the universe's cruelty was not an idea, but a living thing. The sight tightened his throat and made the world feel colder than the cargo hold ever could. One of the team members noticed Li Qi's unusual expression and asked with concern, "Captain, I'm fine." Li Qi took a deep breath and steadied himself. "Continue with the plan. Clear the lower cargo hold." The team members nodded. "Yes, Captain." They swept the lower cargo hold for enemies, but found no other smugglers. A still warm drink suggested the smugglers had fled only recently. According to the plan, after clearing the hold, they were to stand by there awaiting orders from the patrol team, so they set up in the rest area from which they could watch the entire space. Li Qi sat on the floor, staring up at the neat rows of freezers displayed on the light screen, feeling strangely unsettled. "Captain, is this your first time seeing something like this?" The only female team member asked, perceptive. Li Qi turned to her. "What do you mean?" She pointed at the neat shelves. "Slave trade." He nodded slowly. "Yes, it's the first time I've seen it." Another team member, curious, asked, "Captain, are you from the Lava Empire?" Li Qi nodded. "Why? If you weren't from the Lava Empire, then this wouldn't be your first time seeing slave trade," the man explained. "In the intermediate universe country I'm from, slave trading is an industry many families are involved in. I was taken to observe slave transactions before I was an adult. He shook his head. The first time I saw it, I reacted much like you, Captain, but after seeing it often, you just become numb. The Lava Empire is different from those other intermediate universe countries. Slave trading is forbidden here, the female team member added. The Emperor of the Lava Empire wields enormous power. The law banning slave trade in the Empire makes it impossible for slave-catching rings to operate openly inside its borders. But the more forbidden something is, the more some people want it, especially those with absolute power. Owning what others can't brings them a particular thrill, and wherever there's demand, there will be supply. She tapped the light screen. Take the Phantom Wing clan, for example. In other intermediate universe countries where slave trade is legal, an apprentice-level Phantom Wing clan slave might fetch at most 100 lava coins, which is already extremely high. But if that apprentice is smuggled into the Lava Empire, the price can jump to thousands or even tens of thousands of lava coins. The man shook his head. A price difference of tens or even hundreds of times, those profits are irresistible. Li Qi fell silent. He understood how profit at that scale could make people risk everything. The female member tried to comfort him. We can't change how cruel the universe is, Captain, but we can become strong enough to protect our family. That's all any of us can do. Li Qi nodded. He understood that principle deeply. It strengthened his resolve to grow more powerful. To be honest, I greatly admire the Lava Emperor, one team member said suddenly. He's not an undying spiritual god, another corrected, but to have built the Lava Empire into a world lord, his achievement is remarkable. Li Qi widened his eyes in surprise. Your Majesty, the Lava Emperor isn't an undying spiritual god? Captain, you didn't know? The man asked. The Emperor is a world lord. That's not a secret. Li Qi thought back to the Emperor he'd seen and shook his head. I always assumed the Lava Emperor was an undying spiritual god. You might have been misled, the female member said. His Majesty once directly defeated an undying spiritual god, so people who don't know the details often mistake him for one. Directly defeated an undying spiritual god. Li Qi was alarmed. If I remember correctly, most world lords in the outside territory battlefield, those considered elite world lord generals, can at best trade blows with immortal military lords for a short time. Very few can match them, let alone defeat one. To directly defeat an undying spiritual god puts him at the very top among world lords, almost on par with the geniuses cultivated by the 5 great giants. That's possible, the team member said with a nod, and let the topic rest. They'd brought up such things partly to reassure their young captain and to bond with this planetary-level, domain-level genius. Now that the mission's immediate goals were achieved, they kept their mouths shut. Too many words could lead to trouble. Not long after their conversation, the Empire Patrol captain sent a message. The smuggling ship's crew had been cleared out, and the universe-rank captain among them had been dealt with by the universe-rank instructor leading the team. Back on the patrol ship, Li Qi and the others learned the smuggling vessel would be processed by a dedicated department, and the slaves aboard would be settled on habitable planets within the Empire. Li Qi silently approved. Those slaves would be far better off living within the Lava Empire than being sent back to their home worlds. After the crackdown, the patrol ship resumed its anti-smuggling patrol. When the patrol term ended, Li Qi and his team completed the trial mission. It's finally over, he murmured on the return trip to the San Sea Stellar Cultivation Camp, staring at the light screen. He wondered how many points he would receive for the mission. Because patrols often involve unexpected incidents, point rewards are finalized only after the mission's completion. At that moment, the settlement notice appeared. Li Qi Royce's points obtained from completing the patrol mission are as follows. Patrol mission basic reward, 60 points. Patrol mission unexpected reward, 30 points. Served as captain, no team member deaths, 20 points. Empire Patrol Department evaluation, perfect. Additional reward, 30 points. Total points obtained for this patrol mission, 140 points. Li Qi was surprised. 140 points? That much? An old student had earlier estimated the reward based on prior missions. Because this trial mission had gone fairly smoothly, The unexpected reward wouldn't be large, and a captain with no casualties would likely get around 110 points. But Li Qi had received far more, 140 points. He quickly realized why his total exceeded the estimate. The Empire Patrol Department had rated the mission as perfect, granting an extra 30 points. Without that, his score would have matched the old student's prediction. Li Qi frowned. He hadn't done anything exceptionally flashy in this mission. He'd only killed a constant star level 4 martial artist, so why had the Empire Patrol Department given him a perfect evaluation? Chapter 59, San Si Stellar Cultivation Camp. Li Qi, having completed his second trial mission, returned by spaceship and immediately received a notification from the camp. Opening it, joy spread through him. The Blood Blade Cone could finally be claimed. The message included a detailed introduction. The Blood Blade Cone was a low-grade second-order flying mind energy weapon with 3 forms. Its basic form was a flying mode, a blood-red triangular cone etched with mysterious sigils on all 3 faces. The second form was the attack form, called the Blood Edge Blade, a blood-colored crescent with 2 razor-sharp curved blades. The third form was the composite form, the 3-bladed flower, a blood-red metallic blossom with 3 petals that could both attack and defend. Unlocking the third form required star-level 9th order mind power plus a large mind power amplitude, requirements Li Qi met. For me, that difficulty is ordinary, he said with a smile. Having met the prerequisites, Li Qi planned his next moves. First, he would claim the Blood Blade Cone, then exchange points for the soul-piercing needle. Completing his second trial mission had earned him 140 points, and with the 15 points he'd had left, his total came to 155, enough to exchange for the 104-point mind power attack technique soul-piercing needle. On his way out of his room, Li Qi thought, my mind power intensity already exceeds a star-level 9th order Psyker Master. After learning soul-piercing needle, any astral rank 7th or 8th order martial artist without a mind power defense technique will have a hard time resisting my attacks. At the exchange office, he claimed the Blood Blade Cone. The item was indeed a triangular cone made from 256 blades, entirely blood red. Though conical, it was relatively flat and wide, about 0.7 meters long, with exquisitely sharp edges. Then he spent 104 points for the soul-piercing needle, leaving him 51 points. Let's try it, he murmured. Back in his dormitory, he entered the virtual universe to simulate combat and test the new weapon. Virtual universe trials didn't consume camp points, and the results were equivalent to tests in the real-world training grounds. Above a vast simulated prairie, the Blood Blade Cone hovered before him. He used his mind power to activate the amplification sigils. First, he tried the flying form. A sharp rush of air, and the Blood Blade Cone became a blood-colored streak slicing across the sky at astonishing speed. As a second-order mind energy weapon, even the flying form's attack power rivaled the attack form of the heavy defense disc. Li Qi recalled the heavy defense disc's performance fondly. He summoned the weapon back, stepped onto it, and activated the patterns for rapid flight. A faint red light shield wrapped around him, reducing air resistance. After flying and maneuvering above the prairie for a while, he stopped and checked his sensations. The flying speed was more than double that of the heavy defense disc. He tested the Blood Edge Blade attack form and the 3-bladed flower composite form as well. Each impressed him. Clenching his fist, Li Qi felt a surge of confidence. With the Blood Blade Cone, his strength had grown considerably. The third trial mission would be a hunting mission. With his current capability, he should be able to complete it safely. The first 3 trial missions at the Stellar Cultivation Camp must be finished within 5 years. He'd completed the second trial within a year of arrival. Li Qi shook his head with a hint of regret. It was a pity he didn't have more points. With 3 years before the hunting mission arrived, he could have used the time to improve further. The camp had everything: resources, instructors, and even secret technique manuals, but all of these were obtained by exchanging points. A consultation with a universe rank instructor cost 10 points. A territory lord rank instructor cost 50 points. Was it worth spending 50 points? Absolutely. Outside the camp, hiring a territory lord rank expert would require hundreds of millions of lava coins. In the Stellar Cultivation Camp, one could get that level of guidance for just 50 points. That accessibility was why families from dozens of nearby intermediate universe territories sent their prodigies here. After his weapon tests, Li Qi left the virtual universe. Reading the entry for soul-piercing needle, he found it more straightforward than he'd hoped. It wasn't a profound soul technique, just a practical mind power attack method. The technique had two tiers, the myriad needles realm and the needle pierce realm. Reaching the first layer let one transform mind power into innumerable needle-shaped attacks like flowing water. Mastering the second layer concentrated mind power into a single, focused needle attack. That single-point concentration was much better at breaking through an opponent's sea of consciousness defense. He still had 51 points, enough for 5 consultations with universe-rank instructors. Li Qi planned to spend them on guidance for cultivating soul-piercing needle. He intended to follow the Psyker Master path and devote himself heavily to mind power development for the foreseeable future. He wasn't touching the martial artist path yet. Becoming undying required perfect bodily control and a physical amplitude of 100, and that was far beyond him, not least because he wasn't even 20 years old. It shouldn't take 5 sessions, he thought confidently. I'll try to reach the second layer with only 2 universe-rank guidance sessions. Because soul-piercing needle wasn't a profound soul secret technique, the cultivation difficulty was limited, which bolstered his confidence. He began by converting part of his mind power into the needle-shaped attack form. After more than 10 days of focused training, Li Qi reached the myriad needles realm. His mind power attacks now struck like countless tiny pricks, over twice as effective as his previous blunt mind power impacts. In the virtual universe, he tested the myriad needles on simulated Yao beasts, whereas before his attacks barely affected them, now they could interfere with the beasts' movements. Encouraged by the clear results, he trained harder. After more than half a year and 2 sessions of guidance from universe-rank instructors who specialized in mind power attack techniques, he finally advanced to the needle pierce realm. He cultivated for another month, but found his overall strength hadn't increased much beyond that, so he decided to apply for the 3rd trial mission. Chapter 60, Planet Hunting Mission. The vast star sea spread out like an endless ocean. A D-class ship detached from the dark universe and slipped into it, accelerating toward a distant green life planet. Inside the ship, Li Qi sat cross-legged on the deck, the pale glow of the hollow display lighting his face. "This trial is a planetary hunting mission," he murmured. On the screen, a green planet rotated slowly, Chi Kun Li Star. This planetary hunting mission would take place there. Chi Kun Li Star had not been terraformed. Its original ecology remained intact, but the environment was harsh, making it difficult for anything below planetary level to survive. The planet was also home to many low-intelligence, vicious beasts, its indigenous fauna. Regular culls had kept them from evolving into serious threats. None of them rose above astral rank 9th order. Li Qi swiped through the planet data, then opened the criminal manifest. 30 astral rank criminals deployed, he read, including 1 star level 9th order, 2 astral rank 8th order, 3 astral rank 7th order, 4 astral rank 6th order, and the remaining 20 are astral rank 5th order and below. He tapped the entry for the star level 9th order, and a new panel popped up. The portrait showed a man with smooth blue skin, a scar across the left side of his face, and a mouthful of serrated teeth. The name read Nahuen Gur, Grover Kazmu, martial artist, star level 9th order. Sentenced to 10,000 years for slave smuggling and instigating coups. Li Qi examined each criminal's profile, memorizing appearances and specialties. Knowing his opponents would be a tactical advantage. His wrist communicator buzzed. A message from the Stellar Cultivation camp flashed onto the display. Mission scoring rules. Basic mission, hunting vicious beasts. Killing a type of vicious beast earns 5 points, up to a maximum of 150 points. He read on. Additional mission, hunting criminals. Killing 1 criminal earns a base of 25 points, with an additional 2 points for each rank above astral rank 1st order. For example, killing a star level 9th order criminal will earn the base 25 plus an additional 16 points, totaling 41 points. Note, all criminals will be equipped with first-order original force weapons or mind energy weapons and may form teams of up to 4. Li Qi frowned. The rewards for slaughtering criminals were paltry compared to the risk they posed. He scrolled further and found that activity maps for all 30 vicious beast targets had been released. It looked like the camp was essentially encouraging students to finish the basic mission. He paused over one detail. There was no prohibition against students forming teams, nor any rule forbidding students from fighting one another. That contradiction nagged at him. If the camp encouraged teaming, they'd normally forbid students from attacking each other. But with no such prohibition, students could fight freely, and yet the criminals were explicitly allowed to form teams. Li Qi knew almost no one at the camp. With no rule protecting students from each other, trusting strangers would be dangerous. He convinced himself to go it alone. With his strength, he felt confident even against a star-level 9th Order. After all, he possessed the Bloodblade Cone, a second-order telekinesis weapon. The criminals were only guaranteed first-order weapons and, according to the notice, no force armor. Then a thought chilled him. Criminals could acquire equipment from students they killed. The camp had said criminals start out equipped with first-order weapons, but it never forbade them from taking student gear. They'd been deployed to Chi Kunli Star before the students arrived. If they had time to familiarize themselves with the planet and set ambushes, the odds would tilt heavily in their favor. Li Qi's scalp tingled. No wonder the death rate for planetary hunting missions was so high. Without reliable teammates or overwhelming personal power, survival would be unlikely. He was glad he'd spent his points to raise his genetic primal energy rank rather than buy technique manuals. If he hadn't, he might be worrying about survival now. He made his plan. The mission time limit was 3 months. He would give himself 1 month to complete the basic mission. After that, regardless of the completion percentage, he would find a secure place to hide. 1 month to collect the required points was cautious but realistic for someone of his ability. He hoped other students would survive too, but he would not rely on them. Chi Kunli Star. The sky was leaden and restless. Lightning laced the clouds like writhing white snakes, and heavy rain beat down. In the dense forest, droplets ran from leaves to leaf and finally slithered off to the ground, disturbing the bed of fallen leaves. Under a massive tree, Nahuen Guer reached up and caught a falling drop on his fingertip. His saw-like teeth flashed as he eyed the 20-odd figures arrayed before him. The criminals had split into 3 groups. Nahuen and several of his clansmen made up one. The 2 astral-rank 8th Order individuals each had about 10 followers. The 30 of them glared at one another across a clearing, tension thick in the wet air. Nahuen's eyelids narrowed. "So you don't accept the area I marked?" he asked with impatience. "Why would we?" roared a star-level 7th Order. "We have more people. Why should you bunch of a few take the better ground?" "Why?" Nahuen stood and picked up the First Order Original Force battle axe leaning against the tree. Around them, rain drummed and the forest held its breath.